Kia's EV6 gets a mid-cycle refresh for 2025, making an already strong EV even better. This week on EV Rider, we've got a road test of the top trim GT line, along with a look at what's been improved. The long-range trims now come with a bigger 84 kilowatt-hour battery, which Kia says is good for 319 miles per charge in rear-wheel drive configurations. The most noticeable styling change for 2025 is up front, where you have new dramatic LED lighting. For 2025 and beyond, Kia has moved to the new NACS charging standard, which of course means you can now charge natively with no adapter at most Tesla superchargers. However, version 3 Tesla superchargers only operate at 400 volts, whereas this supports 800 volts. So at, say, an Electrify America, you're going to get a much faster charging speed than you'll get at a Tesla supercharger. However, Tesla has started rolling out its version 4 superchargers, and those do indeed support 800 volts. So in another year or two, it's probably going to be much easier to find a Tesla supercharger that'll let you take advantage of the full charging capability of the new EV6. You know, since day one, the Kia EV6 has been a charging speed demon considering its price class, and that continues with the 2025 redesign. This thing can suck down up to 240 kilowatts at a level 3 DC fast charger. That means in ideal conditions, it can go from 10 to 80% in 20 minutes. The interior of the 2025 EV6 is largely carried over, but there have been a significant number of improvements that have been made in this mid-cycle refresh. Let's start with the center console. For one, the piano black finish is gone, which means basically you're not going to have all the fingerprint smudges that you had before. Number two, wireless charging. Perfect spot. And of course, you've got plenty of storage space like you did in the last gen. You've got heated and cooled seats in the top trim model, plus a heated steering wheel. There are plenty of power ports for your smartphones or other electronic goodies. You've got a 12 volt for the older stuff that you might have as well. When you move to the steering wheel, it's had a nice overhaul as well. One of my favorite features about this steering wheel is how practical it is. One, there's a button right here for the drive modes. A lot of EVs, including my Mustang Mach-E, make you go to the touch screen to switch your drive mode. This is more convenient. Then the controls themselves, also very logical and intuitive. You've got controls on the right side for your stereo. Then you've got controls on the left side for the gauge cluster and for the adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist. Taking a look at the gauge cluster, it's also very easy to dial in the way you might like it. As you can see here, you've got a scroll button, and that allows you to go ahead and scroll through all the various readouts. Now, one thing I've always liked about the EV6 that some journalists have not is the fact that this haptic display here will change for you. As you can see right now, it's displaying all the air conditioning controls, but I can go ahead and hit this button and it gives me a second set of controls that will allow me to go ahead and control this touch screen. The EV6 includes a nice intuitive center display and a very good implementation of HD radio. And its native map is very intuitive as well. It'll go ahead and bring up the nearest charging stations, and it will also go ahead and give you your immediate stats as far as things like how much power you're using via your air conditioning or acceleration and so forth. So you can see the system's pretty easy. We can jump back and forth to various aspects of it, no problem. You've got a nice home button, and then you have basically widgets that you can set up. Among the EV6's thoughtful touches is a driver-only function. So if you are commuting by yourself, you can set up the AC to only blow air from the driver's vents. At night, the Kia's interior is striking as well. You've got a lot of nice LED accent lighting throughout, and it's very easy to customize the color in the main stack to whatever you may want. You want pink, you want red, you want blue, doesn't matter. It's all available, very easy to change. Another thing I really like about the Kia is compared to many of the EVs out there, this one actually has an opening sunroof. So many EVs these days have a glass panoramic sunroof, but it's fixed and it doesn't open. And many of them also don't give you a sunscreen. You know, you have to manually install one, but this one has a power sunscreen that motors forward. So no matter what the lighting condition, you're good to go. And when you have a nice day, opening up the car fully is very simple. In back, the EV6 is nice and roomy, and one of the things I really appreciate about this one is they've thought about the rear passengers. So for example, my wife, she tends to like her seat very straight. On the other hand, I like to recline mine. And as you can see, you can do that in this one. Plus, you've got storage pockets as you would expect. You've got USB-C outlets for electronics in the seats. You do have individual AC and heating vents that open and close. However, what you don't have is individual temperature controls in back. And of course, you have a center armrest that includes cup holders as well. And for you men that might be wearing a suit jacket from time to time, you've got a place that you can hang it up right here. In terms of sound effects, that's becoming pretty normal with EVs. And like many of them, the EV6 does come with a sound effect that you can turn on or off, or you can adjust the volume of it. At the moment, I've got it set at the highest volume. So as we take our drive, you probably will get a chance to hear it. I'm very impressed with the ride quality of the EV6. I personally own a Mustang Mach-E, and I will say right off the bat that the EV6 tops it in terms of smoothness. The Mach-E, which I have the standard suspension, not the Magna Ride, is a more bouncy ride than this is. This one is smoother, it's soaking up the bumps. I would say in the corners, perhaps this one has slightly more lean. I can't really decide. I haven't been able to have it long enough to do aggressive driving, but certainly in anything less than off the rails driving, the cornering in this car is very nice. Of course, we've got the dual motor setup, so our acceleration is quite brisk, although it's not as strong as the previous GT that we had, but that's to be expected. But for most people, this acceleration is going to be more than enough, especially if you're coming from a gasoline vehicle. You know, even if the GT was still available here in the US, the GT line, this trim here, is probably what I would personally get. And the reason for that is, to me, it's a very nice balance between fun and practicality. You still get pretty darn good range, but you still got the all-wheel drive, dual motors for crisp acceleration, and I would imagine for folks living in Rust Belt states, that all-wheel drive should really make a difference in the wintertime. You know, I've always appreciated the EV6's heads-up display. It's very good in the sense that it's an extra layer of security. And what I mean by that is, as a car comes up to your side, to your blind spot, just like many cars, their mirrors go ahead and put a light in to alert you to that, which this one does. It also gives you an alert in the heads-up display, which is very nice because you're not always looking at your side view mirror. As I come off the highway, I'm going to go ahead and put my turn signals on. And one thing that I've always enjoyed about the EV6, if you look in the dash there, you can see that the right side camera has turned on. So in addition to my side view mirror, I've also got another view right there on the dash. And by the way, this view is slightly different. So between the two, especially in the case of the camera, I'm very unlikely to have a blind spot. Now, one area where I'm not as happy with the redesign of the EV6 is the actual dash display. It's very clean, it's very logical, but I would say that the last generation, for my taste, had more pizzazz. However, this one does also have over-the-air updates, and they are going to be selling theme packs. So for all I know, they may bring back that old display, and there are going to be some optional displays that you can buy. For example, if you wanted to support your NBA team, you're going to be able to customize the display with that particular team. And there's nothing wrong with this display. I just liked the graphics in the old one better. In fact, Kia says this one is a crisper display and has a faster processor. So you shouldn't experience any lag in this particular display when you're switching between different functions. And I certainly haven't experienced any lag while I've had the car. You know, this car would make it a great highway cruiser. One, because you can get it in a range configuration that breaks 300 miles per charge, and two, because it charges so quickly. You know, one of my favorite features of this EV6 is they haven't forgotten about driver engagement. So you've got these regen paddles, you've got one on the right, one on the left, and it's like upshifting and downshifting in a manual. So let's go ahead and upshift. So now I am coasting, but if I wanted to go ahead and quote downshift, I could go over here to the left paddle and it will keep slowing me down. And there's 4 different levels. So it's really almost like having a 4-speed transmission. And where this is really nice is when you want to do spirited driving. Let's say you were on a mountain road, you could really play with that regen when you were coming down the mountain. So you would never tap your brakes, or almost never anyway, because you could go ahead and raise the regen as you came into a turn, and then you could lower the regen as you come out of the turn. So for those that miss manual transmissions, this is a very nice substitute. And better yet, I would think you might actually get a bit more efficiency out of it, because for example, right now I'm coasting. I don't have my foot on the accelerator or the brake. And with a lot of EVs, it's sort of all or nothing. You either turn on the one pedal driving or you turn it off. Whereas this, because of the regen paddles, you can really vary it. Our top trim GT line all-wheel drive had an as-tested price of just under $61,000. For those of you looking for a deeper dive on the EV6's redesign, head on over to the website evrider.tv. That's where you'll find EV Rider contributor Dan Scanlon's week-long road test of the EV6, where he gets into all kinds of things that I didn't have time to touch on in this video. Also, in that same story, you'll find a link, an embedded video to our prior road test of the EV6 GT. Even though that's not being imported right now, in the used car market, that is one screaming performance bargain. Hey, if you enjoyed this road test of the EV6, please go ahead and give this video a like, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because that's the way I can continue to bring you more adventures in EV motoring and more road tests like this one. Thanks so much for watching EV Rider, and we'll see you again soon with another new episode.